second. And we'll test to see if we're actually online. We are online. That is fantastico. Okay, with that happy thought in mind, let's get back to class. All right. Okay, Hare Krishna. So we're going to start chanting like we normally do. Give me 1 second. Alrighty. Tomorrow is the combined disappearance days of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So we'll be speaking about them tomorrow evening and tomorrow morning. Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Jaya Koro More Toma Vina Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsare Atita Pavana Hetu Tavavataya Oshamo Atita Prabhu Napaiveya Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balogan Nakorau Ami Barutukiki Daya Kuru Sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bo Lepai Caitanya Akasvaru Sanatana Rupa Raduna Bhattayoga Shri Jiva Rapulokana Chaya Bravo Shiva Ramachandra San Gamage Narutodas Doya Koji Jaya Bravo Shiva Ramachandra Sangamage Narutamadas Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Toma Vinake Dayalu Jagat Samsara Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ati Rama, Ati Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ati Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Haribo, Go, go. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Ostotera Satyashi Shivad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charana Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Jai, Parem Say Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturadam Ki Jai, Jagadha Sami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shivani Glasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta, Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namaum Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvadi Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarni. So I will read the translation to this poem by Narottam Das Thakur. My dear Lord, please be merciful to me, because who can be more merciful than your Lordship within these three worlds? Your incarnation is just to reclaim the conditioned fallen souls, but I assure you that you will not find a more fallen soul than me. Therefore, my claim is first. My dear Lord Nityananda, you are always joyful in spiritual bliss. Since you always appear very happy, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. If you kindly put your glance over me, I may also become happy. My dear Advaita Prabhu, husband of Sita, you are so kind. Please be kind to me. If you are kind to me, naturally Lord Caitanya and Nityananda will also be kind to me. I pray for the mercy of Swarup Damodar, the 6 Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatana Goswami, Shri Bhattu Raghunath Goswami, Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Raghunath Das Goswami and Lokanath Prabhu. I, Narottama Das, pray to the merciful Srinivasacharya, and I always desire the company of Ramachandra. Of course, Ramachandra is his friend, not Lord Ramachandra. And Ramachandra, his friend, Ramachandra Kaviraj, was initiated by Srinivasacharya. So now we're going to go on to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, and we are reading about the passing of Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur has begged Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give him the blessing that he could pass away before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibits his final pastimes. This is out of great love for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because someone who loves someone so much cannot live if the object of their love passes away. And we're going to talk about this tomorrow, about Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, who passed away. Well, the commemoration day of his passing away was tomorrow, and he passed away feeling separation from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very shortly after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world. But of course, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So now we'll go on to the Caitanya Caritamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So, Om Ganat Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. More Chayadi Tomara Prasade Hai Aini Vedana Mora Kara Daya Maya. O most merciful Lord, if by your mercy it is possible, kindly grant my desire, because his desire was to pass away before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I previously mentioned that my godbrother Jayananda Prabhu loved Prabhupada so much he wanted to pass away before Prabhupada left this material world. And so Jayananda prayed in that way, and Krishna made the arrangement that he passed away before Srila Prabhupada did, because he didn't want to witness Srila Prabhupada's final pastimes. They were just too intense. E nicha deha mora paduka tabage evancha sire mora tumate lage. Let this low-born body fall down before you. You can make possible this perfection of all my desires. Prabhu kahi haridasa ye tumi ma gibe Krishna kripa mayata Avasha Kadibe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Haridas, Krishna is so merciful that he must execute whatever you want. Kintu amaraye kichu sukha saba tomalana tomara yogya nahi yave amare chatiya. But whatever happiness is mine is all due to your association. It is not fitting for you to go away and leave me behind. So you also see this reciprocation of love between the Lord and his devotees. The Lord doesn't want to be here without Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur doesn't want to be here without the Lord. Chadane Darikai Haridas no Kariyamaya Avashano Dadami Prabhu Karai Daya. Catching the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, do not create an illusion. Although I am so fallen, you must certainly show me this mercy. Mora Shiromani Kata Kata Mahasaya Tumara Lila Sahaya Koti Bhakta Haya. My Lord, there are many respectable personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. Amahena Yadi Eka Kitamari Gela Eka Pipilika Maile Privira Kahan Hani Hoila. My Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? Such humility. Bhakta Vatsala Prabhu Tumi Mui Bhaktavasa Avasha Parabi Prabhu Mora E Asha. My Lord, you are always affectionate to your devotees. I am just an imitation devotee, but nevertheless I wish that you fulfill my desire. That is my expectation. Now, Haridas Thakur, yes, he's humble, but he's actually speaking about what he really believes. He's not believing that he's a great devotee, because if one thinks he's a great devotee, Lord Chaitanya is visiting me every day, I'm chanting 192 rounds every day, I defeated Maya, Devi, I defeated the prostitute, I defeated this, I defeated that. Then one becomes filled with anarthas. As we've mentioned many times before, one of the causes of anarthas is that the process of devotional service, because one actually becomes very proud as one advances in devotional service. I know my rasa with Krishna. I am a great devotee. I am a great intellectual. Madhyana karite prabhu chalila pane Ishvara dekhiya kali dipena dara shane. Because he had to perform his noon duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to leave, but it was settled that the following day, after he saw Lord Jagannath, he would return to visit Haridas Thakur. Tabi Mahaprabhu tanre kari alingana Majana karite samudre karila gamana. After embracing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to perform his noon duties and went to the sea to take his bath. Now, remember two things. That Lord Chaitanya is embracing Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, look at the culture that was existing at that particular time. Haridas Thakur was born in a non-Hindu family, and which was considered, worse than outcast. Worse than outcast, is Malecha family. And so, even within the Vedic system where you had Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, the Brahmin would never touch a Shudra. In fact, if a Shudra even stepped on a Brahmin's shadow, the Shudra would be risking his life. He could be killed for that. And that was the culture existing at that particular time. So here is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embracing someone like Haridas Thakur. Phew. I mean, it's an unbelievable occurrence due to the culture in which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preaching at that time. Pratakale Ishvara Deki Sabha Bhakta Glana Haridase Dekite Aila Shigra Kariha. The next morning, after visiting the Jagannath temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by all of his devotees, went hastily to see Haridas Thakur. Haridase Ragiyase Dila Dharashana Haridasa Vandila Prabhurara Vaishnava Charana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the devotees came before Haridas Thakur, who offered his respects to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Prabhu kahe Haridasa kaha samachara Haridasa kahe Prabhu ye kripa tumara. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, "My dear Haridas, what is the news?" Haridas replied, "My Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me." Angane Arambila Prabhu Maha Sankirtana Prakeshra Pandita Kahan Karinanartada. Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began great congregational chanting in the courtyard, for Keshava Pandit was the chief dancer. Suruko Shaniari Yata Prabhura Gandha Harirase Veda Karin Nama Sankirtan Headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surrounded Haridas Thakur and began congregational chanting. Now, you think about the ontological position of these devotees. Swarup Damodar Goswami, Lalita Devi, and of course, I don't know if Ramananda Roy was there. I assume Ramananda Roy was there too. Vishaka Devi, and also Arjuna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya. This Radha and Krishna is one, and Krishna the mood of Srivati Radharani, and all these different associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanting the holy names around Haridas Thakur. Ramananda, he was there. Ramananda Sarvabhauma Sabara Grite Haridas Saraguna Prabhu Lagila Kahite. In front of all the great devotees like Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe the holy attributes of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Saraguna Kahite Prabhu Kaila Panchamukha Kahite Kahite Prabhu Ravade Mahasukha. As he described the transcendental attributes of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to possess 5 mouths. The more he described, the more his great happiness increased. Haridas Saragune Sabara Vismita Kaya Mana Sarvabhakta Bande Haridas Sara Chalana. After hearing of the transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakur, all the devotees present were struck with wonder. They all offered their respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Nija Grete Prabhure Vasaila Nija Netra Dvivringa Mukha Padme Dila. Haridas Thakur made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him, and then he fixed his eyes like 2 bumblebees on the lotus face of the Lord. Phew. So he's getting ready to leave this world. Like a yogi, he's choosing his moment of departure. And for a devotee, as long as he's hearing the holy names, as long as he's thinking of Krishna, it doesn't matter whether it's the sun is going to the north, or to the south, or the fiery light, or whatever. According to the Bhagavad Gita, it's always auspicious. Swaradiyayani Darila Prabhura Chadana Sarvabhakta Padorenu Mastaka Bhushana. He held the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his heart, and then took the dust of the feet of all the devotees present and put it on his head. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Valena Bhara Bhara Prabhu Mukha Madhuri Piyai Netre Jaladara. He began to chant the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya again and again. As he drank the sweetness of the face of the Lord, tears constantly glided down from his eyes. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Karite Ucharanha Namera Sahita Prana Kaila Utkramada. While chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he gave up his air of life and left his body. Mahayogeshvara Prayateki Swachande Marana Vijmera Niryana Savara Haila Smarana. Seeing the wonderful death of Haridas Thakur by his own will, which was just like a great mystic yogi's, everyone remembered the passing of Bhishma, because Bhishma was lying on a bed of arrows. He had gotten the benediction. He could pass away any time he wanted. So he waited for an auspicious time, right at about December 22nd or 23rd, when the sun actually starts to go to the north again. Anyway, so Hare Krishna Shabde Sabe Karelo Kolahala Premanande Mahaprabhu Haila Vivala. There was a tumultuous noise as they all chanted the holy names Hari and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Haridas Saratanu Prabhu Kolela Ela Utana Anganena Chena Prabhu Prema Vishta Hana. The Lord raised the body of Haridas Thakur and placed it on his lap. Then he began to dance in the courtyard in great ecstatic love. Now, there's another thing. Here's the body of someone from a lower caste, well, not even a caste, sorry, outcast, and the Lord is dancing with his body. It shows that one should not consider the body of a devotee to be material. It's actually one of the ways that one can commit offenses against devotees, is to consider a devotee's past activities, some imperfection in the body of the devotee, some accidental deviation of the devotee, because the devotee is considered to be like the moon. The moon may have a few spots on it, but the moon gives great brilliance. So one has to be very, very careful. Prabhura Veshe Avasha Sarva Bhakta Gana Prema Veshe Savenache Karena Kirtana. Because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, all the devotees were helpless, and in ecstatic love they also began to dance and chant congregationally with Lord Chaitanya holding the body. Emate Nricha Prabhu Kaila Katakshana Surupa Goshani Prabhure Karaila Savadhana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced for some time, and then Swarup Damodar Goswami informed him of other rituals for the body of Thakur Haridas. Haridasa Thakure Tabe Bimane Chadana Samudre Lanagela Tabe Kirtana Kariya. The body of Haridas Thakur was then raised onto a carrier that resembled an airship and taken to the sea, accompanied by congregational chanting. Agi Mahaprabhu Chalena Nricha Karite Karite Pache Nricha Kare Vakesha Bhakta Gana Sate. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in front of the procession, and Rakeshwara Pandit, along with the other devotees, chanted and danced behind him. Haridas se samudra jale snana karaila Prabhu kahe samudre mahatirtha haila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed the body of Haridas Thakur in the sea and then declared, from this day on, this sea has become a great pilgrimage site. Wow. Haridas sera padodaka piye bhaktagana Haridas sera angedila prasada chandana. Everyone drank the water that had touched the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Remember, Haridas Thakur was from an outcast family. This was something that was shocking to people there. But Lord Chaitanya was showing that the devotee is not to be considered as a member of a particular caste, just like the deity is not to be considered as being made of wood or stone or anything like that. And if one thinks like that about the deity or the devotee, then one is possessed of hellish intelligence. And then they smeared remnants of Lord Jagannath's sandalwood pulp over Haridas Thakur's body. Dora kadara prasada vastra ange dila valukara gartakari tahe shagayela. After a hole was dug in the sand, the body of Haridas Thakur was placed into it. Remnants from Lord Jagannath, such as his silken rope, sandalwood pulp, food, and cloth, were placed on the body. Chari dike vaktagana Karena Kirtana, Rakesha Pandita Karena, Anandi Nartana. All around the body, the devotees performed congregational chanting, and Rakesha Pandit danced in jubilation. Another difference that we're actually seeing here is that generally, except in the case of great acharyas and sannyasis, the body was cremated and the ashes were thrown into the sea or into the holy rivers. But you see, Haridas Thakur's body is interred in a samadhi. And to this day, you can actually go visit the samadhi of Haridas Thakur. It's a very, very special place and has such great potency. If you go there in Jagannath Puri, you'll just feel the presence of Haridas Thakur. Haribola, Haribola, Male Gora Raiha, Apanishi Haste Valudila, Tanragaya. With his transcendental hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand, chanting, Huri Bol, Huri Bol. Tanre Valudia Pare, Pinda Bandhaila, Chodike Pindera Maha, Avarana Koila. The devotees covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand and then constructed a platform upon the site. The platform was protected all around by fencing. Taha Bedi Prabhu Kaila, Kirtana Nartana, Horidwani Kolahale, Barila Bhuvana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted all around the platform, and as the holy name of Hari roared tumultuously, the whole universe became filled with the vibration. Tabi Mahaprabhu Sabhavakta Gana Sagay Samudre Kalila Snana Jalakeli Range. After Sankirtan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the sea with his devotees, swimming and playing in the water in great jubilation. So you may say, swimming and playing in the water after someone passes away. Well, he's celebrating. Celebrating the great departure of a great devotee. I mean, it's sort of mixed. He's feeling separation from Haridas Thakur, but he's celebrating the successful departure. So when a devotee leaves this world in such a successful way in a holy place, hearing the holy names, one celebrates. Haridase pradakshina kara kari aila singa dware hari kirtana kolahara sakala nagare. After circumambulating the tomb of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Singadwara gate of the Jagannath temple. The whole city chanted in congregation, and a tumultuous sound vibrated all over the city. Singadwara yase Prabhu pasarira tani Anjala patiya prasada mukila tatai. Approaching the Singadwara gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread his cloth and began to beg prasadam from all the shopkeepers there. He was begging prasadam to have a festival. Haridasa Thakurera Mahotsavera Tade Prasada Magiye Bhiksha Deha Ta Amare. I'm begging prasadam for a festival honoring the passing away of Haridas Thakur. The Lord said, please give me alms. Shunya Pasari Saba Gangadao Thana Prasada Ditaya Sitara Anandatahana. Hearing this, all the shopkeepers immediately came forward with big baskets of prasadam, which they jubilantly delivered to Lord Chaitanya. Swarup Goswami Pasari Ke Nishayadila Changada Lana Pasari Vasila. However, Swarup Damodar stopped them, and the shopkeepers returned to their shops and sat down with their baskets. Swarup Damodar Swarupa Goswami Prabhure Gare Pataila Chari Vaishnavachari Pichada Sange Rakila. Swarup Damodar sent Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his residence and kept with him 4 Vaishnavas and 4 servant carriers. Swarupa Goswami Kahilena Sava Pasarire Eka Dravya Eka Punja Deha More. Swarup Damodar said to all the shopkeepers, deliver to me 4 palmfuls of prasadam from each and every item. Mate Nana Prasada Boshaha Bandhana Lana Aila Chari Janera Mastake Chadana. In this way, varieties of prasadam were collected and packed up in different loads and carried on the heads of the 4 servants. Vaninath Patanayaka Prasada Anhila Kashi Mishra Aneka Prasada Vatayla. Not only did Swarup Damodar Goswami bring prasadam, but Vaninath Patanyayaka and Kashi Mishra also sent large quantities. Sabha Vaishnave Prabhu Vasailaksari Sari Apaniye Pariveshe Prabhulana Janakchari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made all the devotees sit in rows and personally began to distribute the prasadam, assisted by 4 men. Mahaprabhu Shri Haste Apanahayase Eka Pati Pancha Janara Vaksha Pariveshe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not accustomed to taking prasadam in small quantities. Therefore, he put on each plate what at least 5 men could eat. Swarupakai Prabhuvasi Karaha Darshana Aminha Savalana Kari Pariveshana. Swarup Damodar Goswami requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please sit down and watch. With these men to help me, I shall distribute the prasadam. Swarupa Jagadananda Kashishvara Shankara Chari Jana Pariveshana Kari Nirantara. The 4 men, Swarup Damodar, Jagadananda, Kashishvara, and Shankara, distributed the prasadam continuously. Prabhu Nakaile Keha Nakare Bojana Prabhuri Se Dine Kashi Mishrera Nimantrana. All the devotees who sat down would not eat the prasadam as long as the Lord had not eaten. On that day, however, Kashi Mishra had extended an invitation to the Lord. Apane Kashi Mishraila Prasada Nana Prabodhi Vikshakaraila Agraha Kariha. Therefore, Kashi Mishra personally went there and delivered prasadam to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great attention and made him eat. Puri Bharatira Sange Prabhu Bhiksha Kaila Sakala Vaishnavatabe Bhojana Karila. With Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down and accepted the prasadam. When he began to eat, so did all the Vaishnavas. Akanta Purana Sabaya Karaya Bhojana Deha Deha Bali Prabhu Balena Vachana. Everyone was filled up to the neck because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept telling the distributors, give them more, give them more. Bhojana Kariya Sabe Kaila Chamana Sabare Paraila Prabhu Malya Chandana. After all the devotees finished accepting prasadam and had washed their hands and mouths, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decorated each of them with a flower garland and sandalwood pulp. Prema Vishtahana Prabhu Karena Varadhana Shuni Bhakta Kanera Judaya Manas Kama. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered a benediction to all the devotees, which all the devotees heard with great satisfaction. So we should take this benediction. Harirasera Vijotsaba Ye Kaila Darshana Ye Hanricha Kaila Ye Kaila Kirtana Ye Tanre Valukadite Karila Kamana Tarama Je Mahotsave Ye Kaila Bhojana Achire Haive Tasavara Krishna Prapti Haridas Darashane Ayache Shakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction. Anyone who has seen the festival of Sri Haridas Thakur's passing away, anyone who has chanted and danced here, anyone who has offered sand on the body of Haridas Thakur, and anyone who has joined this festival to partake of the prasadam will achieve the favor of Krishna very soon. There is such wonderful power in seeing Haridas Thakur. Kripakari Krishna More Diachila Sangha Swatantra Krishna Richa Kaila Sangha Vanga. Being merciful upon me, Krishna gave me the association of Haridas Thakur. Being independent in his desires, he has now broken that association. Haridas Sera Ichayabe Haila Chalite Amara Shakati Tanre Narila Rakite. When Haridas Thakur wanted to leave this material world, it was not within my power to detain him. Icha matre kaila nija prana nishkramana purvayena shuniyachi vishmera marana. Simply by his will, Haridas Thakur could give up his life and go away, exactly like Bhishma, who previously died simply by his own desire, as we have heard from Shastra. Haridasa Achila Pradivira Shiromane Taha Vinaratna Shunya Haila Medane. Haridas Thakur was the crown jewel on the head of this world. Without him, this world is now bereft of its valuable jewel. Jaya Jaya Haridasa Bali Karae Kara Haridhwane Etapali Mahaprabhu Nachena Apane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told everyone, say, all glories to Haridas Thakur, and chant the holy name of Hari. Saying this, he personally began to dance. Savegaya Jaya 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 Haridasa Namera Mahimayena Karila Prakasha. Everyone began to chant all glories to Haridas Thakur, who revealed the importance of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Tabi Mahaprabhu Saba Bhakti Vidaya Dila Harsha Vishadi Prabhu Vishrama Karila. Thereafter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees, and he himself, with mixed feelings of happiness and distress, took rest. Eta Kahilan Haridas Sera Vichaya Yahara Shavane Krishna Drida Bhakti Hoya. Thus I have spoken about the victorious passing away of Haridas Thakur. Anyone who hears this narration will certainly fix his mind firmly in devotional service to Krishna. That's called the Shruti Pala, which after a particular story or after a particular chapter, there's a benediction that's given to those who have heard this particular chapter or this particular story. So if you heard this narration today nicely, you will be able to fix your mind firmly in devotional service to Krishna. What does that mean exactly? That means whatever your service is, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavya Brahmagno Brahmanahutan Brahmatena Gantavya Brahma Karma Samadhina. You should actually focus on it and do it nicely for Krishna, as well as focusing on the chanting of the holy names of the rest of your sadhana process. At Purushottama, Prabhupada explains, at Purushottama Kshetra, or Jagannath Puri, there's a temple of Tota Gopinath. If one goes from there to the sea, he can discover the tomb of Haridas Thakur still existing. Every year on the date of Ananta Chaturdashi, there's a festival to commemorate the passing of Haridas Thakur. At the same place, deities of Nityananda Prabhu, Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and Dvaita Prabhu were established about 100 years ago. A gentleman named Brahmaravara from Kindrabhada in the province of Orissa contributed funds to establish these deities in the temple. The management of the temple was under the Tota Gopinath Goswamis. The temple was later sold to someone else, and this party is now maintaining the Seva Puja of the temple. Near this temple, in the tomb of Haridas Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur constructed a small house called the Bhakti Kuti. In the Bengali year 1329, that's AD 1922, the Purushottama Math, the branch of the Gaudiya Math, was established there. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, it is stated, Srinivasa Shigara Samudrara, Kule Gela Haridasa Thakura Samari Dekila, Bhumite Padya Kaila, Pranati Vishtara, Bhagavata Gana Sri Samadhi Sanidhane, Srinivase Stira Kaila, Sasneha Vachane, Puna Srinivasa Sri Samadhi Pranamiya, Ye Vilapa Kaila Ta Shunile Drave Ya. Srinivas Thakur, so Srinivas Thakur is second generation from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, and after the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, you had Srinivasacharya, Narottama Das Thakur, and Shaimananda Goswami. So Srinivas Thakur quickly ran to the seashore. When he saw the tomb of Haridas Thakur, he immediately fell down offering prayers and almost fainted. The devotees present there pacified him with very sweet and affectionate words, and Srinivas again offered his obeisances at the tomb. Hearing of the separation that Srinivas expressed in his lamentation at the tomb of Haridas Thakur makes one's heart melt. Chaitanyara Bhaktavatsalya Ihate Jane Bhaktavancha Purna Kaila Nyasi Shiromani. From the incident of Haridas Thakur's passing away and the great care Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took in commemorating it, one can understand just how affectionate he is toward his devotees. Although he is the topmost of all sannyasis, he fully satisfied the desire of Haridas Thakur. Sheshakali Dina Tanre Darshana Svarshana Tanre Kole Kare Kaila Apane Nartana. When Haridas Thakur was at the last stage of his life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him his company and allowed Haridas Thakur to touch him. Thereafter, he took the body of Haridas Thakur, or Thakur Haridas, on his lap and personally danced with it. Apane Shri Haste Kripya Tanre Valu Tila Apane Prasada Magi Mohotsava Kaila. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand and personally begged alms from the shopkeepers. Then he conducted a great festival to celebrate the passing away of Haridas Thakur. Maha Bhagavata Haridasa Parama Vidwan Eso Bhagya Lagiyage Karila Payana. Haridas Thakur was not only the topmost devotee of the Lord, but also a great and learned scholar. It was his great fortune that he passed away before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Haridas Thakur is mentioned here as the most learned scholar, Parama Vidwan. Actually, the most important science to know is the science of getting out of the clutches of material existence. Anyone who knows this science must be considered the greatest learned person. Anyone who knows the temporary situation of this material world and is expert in achieving a permanent situation in the spiritual world, who knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond the jurisdiction of the experimental knowledge, our experimental knowledge, is understood to be the most learned scholar. Haridas Thakur knew the science perfectly, therefore he is described in this connection as Parama Vidban. He personally preached the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is approved by the revealed scriptures, as stated in the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.24. Etipam sarpita Vishnu bhaktis chen navalakshana kriyeta bhagavat yada tanman yeditam utamam. There are 9 different processes of devotional service to Krishna, the most important being Shravanam Kirtanam. That's from Prahlad Maharaj's teaching, 7.5.23, hearing and chanting. Haridas Thakur knew this science very well, and he can therefore be called technically Sarva Shastra Diti. He knew all the Shastras. Anyone who's learned the essence of all the Vedic scriptures is to be known as a first-class educated person with full knowledge of all Shastra. Caitanya Charitamrta he Amritera Sindhu Karna Mana Tripta Kare Yada Eka Bindu. The life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exactly like an ocean of nectar, one drop of which can please the mind and ear. Wow. Bhava Sindhu Tarivare Achayara Chita Shradakari Shuna Ise Chaitanya Charitra. Anyone who desires to cross over the ocean of nescience, please hear with great faith the life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this looks like the end of the chapter. Shri Rupa Raganatha Pade Yara Hasha Chaitanya Caritamrta Kaye Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate the Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, Antya Lila, 11th chapter, describing the passing of Haridas Thakur. And so tomorrow, 11th chapter. So tomorrow we will start chapter 12, which details the loving dealings between Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannatha Pandit. Jagannatha Pandit was basically considered to be an incarnation of Satyabhama. Now, Satyabhama, just to give you a little preview, Satyabhama was a left-handed wife. That doesn't mean she wrote with her left hand, but she actually, Bam, means she was a wife who basically argued with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so you have some submissive wives that Krishna had, such as Rukmini, and then you have unsubmissive wives like Satyabhama. And Satyabhama, in fact, nagged the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, to get her a whole Parijata tree. And Krishna had to fight with all the demigods when he took the Parijata tree. So Jagannananda is in that same mood, and you'll find him manifesting man, or anger, when he's dealing with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not all the time, but sometimes extreme anger, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is enjoying that particular loving exchange where Jagannananda gets very angry, and we're going to hear about that in the next few days. So now, with this in mind, we can stop sharing and take questions. If anyone has questions, let me allow you to unmute yourselves. So you can raise your hand, or I guess Rakesh is quick on the trigger. So you have a question, Rakesh? You unmuted yourself.
Yes, Gurudev. My question is, Gurudev, in the previous chapter, when Vijay Vigraha, like Govindji, was
Yeah.
taken to the Sarovar
Narendra
for,
Sarovar. Right.
yes, Gurudev, yes, and for the pastimes, it is called Vijay Vigraha, but in the deities in the temple is called Archa Vigraha. So, how do you
Well,
reconcile those?
what's Archa Vigraha is the general name for all the deities in the temple. And the Vijay Vigraha is the Archa Vigraha. It's a subset of the category of Archa Vigraha that's meant to be taken out of the temple. Vijay means like victory, actually. And another name of the Vijay Vigraha is the Utsava Murti. Utsava means, of course, festival. So they're all deities, but there's different functions of different deities. Different deities do different things. Archa Murti, Archa Vigraha is the generic term for the deity. And under that general category, you have the Vijay Vigraha, the Utsava Murti, like that, which means the festival Murti. Okay? Just like Krishna can be called different names. You can call him Govinda, Shima Sundara, God, if you happen to approach him in that particular way. So, anyway, it's a subset of the Archa Vigraha is the Vijaya Vigraha. It's the smaller deity. Okay. So, with that in mind, let someone else ask a question. Who else has a question? Raise your hand or type in the chat window. Okay, here's a question. How does this Pala Shruti act? Does it happen automatically or it needs effort? Shruti, okay, let me define those words. Shruti means to hear. Okay. And Pala means fruit. It's the fruit of hearing. So how does it act? Well, it acts based upon one's faith. As Krishna says, Shradana Purusha Dharma Shashat Tapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Michu Samsara Varmane. That if one doesn't have faith, it's not going to be so effective. I mean, there's some benefit, obviously. But the more you hear with rapt attention, the more Shushusho Shradanasha. There's another verse from the Bhagavatam. Shushro Shro Shradanasha Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Shan Mahatsevya Vipra Punyatirtana Shevanat. That depends on one's faith, it depends on one's attention, and then the sound vibration, according to Lord Kapiladev, enters from the ear. I don't want to put the pen in my ear. Enters from the ear to the heart. There's a clear channel. It's like some of you might see an advertisement, clear channel advertising. So there's a clear channel between the ear and the heart. So if one keeps that channel clear, otherwise it's in one ear, out another ear. So you have to hear with faith. And then it's fully effective. It's not just like ritualistic hearing. One has to hear with faith. Okay, that's an important question. Jai Radhika. Assuming Haridas Thakur has gone back to Golok Vrindavan at the same time went to Brahma's post. Somehow or other things were taken care of. Haridas, Lord Brahma is a pure devotee, first of all. And he came down to enact this pastime with as Haridas Thakur. And so a pure devotee can take a post of management, and that's the same as going back to Godhead, because internally he's always absorbed in his transcendental. Would you kindly, okay, here's a question that's not complete. Would you kindly explain the difference between what and what? I guess between going back to Godhead and going to the post. For a pure devotee,
Srila Gurudev, Dandavat
yeah.
Pranam. I was just inquiring the difference between the salvation and what is that?
Yeah, Krishna consciousness.
Liberation.
And
liberation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. So salvation, liberation, basically mean the same thing. That one gets liberated from one's karma, saved from one's karma, but devotional service is a higher level of liberation. In other words, there's different types of liberation. There's liberation by which one gets freed from karma. There's liberation by which one merges into the absolute truth, or thinks they merge into the absolute truth. There's liberation in which one lives on the same planet as the Lord. Salokya, Samipya, Shashti has the same opulence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's different types of liberation, but devotional service is the topmost type of liberation and topmost type of salvation. Of course, the word salvation means to save someone. So what are we saving someone from, or what is someone being saved from? Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha darshana darshanam. The miseries of this material world, repeated death, purnajama naiti mameti sojana, repeated birth and death in this world. But we are actually interested in devotional service. That's our liberation. So generally, liberation, salvation, they're taken as secondary by devotees, because a devotee is interested in serving the Lord. Narayana paraksarve nakotasthana viviti swarga pavarga naudakeshu apitulyartha darshana. Topmost devotee of the Lord sees heaven, hell, going back to Godhead, whatever, as all the same, because he's doing the same thing anywhere. So that's devotional liberation, or devotional service. But mundane liberation without devotional service, a devotee will never accept. I hope that makes sense. So, who else has a question?
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you. So who else has a question? Raise your hand, write a message in the chat.
Just if nobody has a question, I have a further question on liberation.
Yeah.
One of
Okay.
the 5 kinds of impersonal, one of the 5 kinds of impersonal liberation is constant association with the Lord.
That's right.
Devotees don't want. So what does the
No,
constant
I didn't say
association?
devotees don't want. The devotees just want to serve Krishna, and they will accept the liberation if the devotees don't ask for it. Pure devotees. Okay, let me make it more clear. Pure devotees don't ask for that. Pure devotees just say, Mama Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaitaki Twaye. We may not be pure devotees, so we can ask for that. Don't think that one should, as George Harrison says, I really want to see you, Lord. I want to be with you, Lord. So we can pray for that. But pure devotees, as Caitanya Mahaprabhu manifests, that Mama Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Haitaki, all I do is want to serve you. But that's a very high level of devotional service. Don't try to imitate it, because it will not be consistent with your level of consciousness, and it'll be kind of hypocritical.
What does that constant association mean if you're not serving him? Like, in what way you constantly associate?
No, when you're constantly associated with Krishna, you're serving him. There's different. They are serving Krishna in the spiritual world. They're constantly associated with him. They are serving Krishna on the same planet as the Lord. They are serving Krishna if they have the same opulences as the Lord. They are serving Krishna if they have the same form as the Lord. But the devotees don't ask for that. If Krishna wants it, the devotees accept. But devotees don't ask for it. Devotee has no request. A pure devotee. Sorry, gotta couch that properly. A pure devotee does not ask for it. We can ask for it. Krishna, get me out of this material world. Krishna, take me back to the spiritual world. Like Prabhupada was asked one time, should he want to go back to Godhead? And Prabhupada said, yes. We should ask to go back to Godhead. I want to go back to Godhead. And Prabhupada would enthuse us and inspire us by the statement, back to home, back to Godhead. So, we should think like that. I mean, we should think, I want to go back to God. I want to be with Krishna in the spiritual world. And when and if, and it's not just if, we will, when we become pure devotees, it'll just be, I just want to give Krishna pleasure. And that is the spiritual world. Okay, If that makes sense, it makes sense, hopefully. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see everybody tomorrow evening, and tomorrow evening we'll be speaking about the disappearance of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami and the disappearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So both of which occurred or on tomorrow's day according to the Vaishnava calendar. Okay, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki